After 2 more years of confused clattering and reverse rollouts, Trikes-RUS found itself facing a new reality. The customers, those frugal, jittery, coffee-sloshing creatures, had developed a sense of standards. No longer content with their "don't turn" arriving fresh from the factory with what Mr. Brambly liked to call adventurous orientation, clients began demanding that the wheels face the ground, the boiler not leak, and the horn be affixed somewhere more useful than the passenger's kneecap. And so, with great reluctance and an even greater misuse of scrap lumber, Mr. Reginald Percival Brambly, engineer, founder, and sworn enemy of the fourth wheel, introduced his latest miracle to the Trikes-RUS compound. The official Trikes-RUS Repair and Refinement Workshop. Unofficial motto, "We meant to do that." Constructed just behind the original factory and partially out of doors due to ventilation needs, the repair shop was a revelation. For the first time, don't turns were shipped out with all their necessary bolts tightened, their wheels facing downward, and their tillers not inexplicably glued in place with molasses. Mr. Brambly, ever the optimist when cornered, claimed this move was not an admission of error, but rather
a chance to fine-tune the marvels we've already created. Perfection is not born, sir. It is tweaked into being.
Of course, it helped that repairs meant delays, and delays meant customers were too dazzled by the smell of varnish and free coffee to notice the don't turn still had the turning radius of a distressed mule. But most importantly, the new repair shop achieved what years of marketing, engineering, and polite fibbery had not: consistency. No longer did buyers recoil when their tricycle shipped with its boiler whistling the national anthem. No longer did farmers write in asking whether the seat was meant to detach mid-turn. No longer did Mr. Brambly have to answer letters that began with "Dearest Fool." Instead, Trikes-RUS began to build a reputation grudging, uneven, and held together with split pins. But a reputation nonetheless. Sales improved modestly. Complaints decreased somewhat. And the repair shop, often running at twice the output of the actual factory, became the unofficial heart of the company. When asked if the shop would soon begin assembling new don't turns entirely from scratch to avoid the back and forth, Mr. Brambly reportedly replied,
"Don't be absurd. The factory makes the cars. The repair shop merely helps them remember what they were always meant to be."
And with that, another year passed, and the don't turn rolled onward, wheels straightened, bolts firmed, and all 3 of its legs proudly trembling with purpose. Now, as many of Mr. Brambly's more confounding ideas do, with a clang, a spark, and a great deal of shouting, word arrived at the Trikes-RUS factory that the esteemed engineer-in-chief, the wielder of the mighty monocle himself, had retreated into his private study with only 4 tins of beef tongue, a schematic pad, and a book of Da Vinci's lesser-known failures. By week's end, he emerged covered in soot, smelling of ozone, and proclaiming to any who dared listen,
Gentlemen, and the rest of you, what if we no longer needed the mechanic? What if the don't turns could be assembled not by mortal hand, but by ironclad limbs, gears, and pistons automatons? Yes, robotic assemblers, precisely timed, tireless, and unburdened by coffee addiction.
The floor bosses turned a ghostly white. One fainted outright into a pile of discarded wheel mounts. But undeterred by skepticism or reality, Mr. Brambly unveiled his invention, the Brambly Assembler No. 1, an 8-foot steam-belching tower of riveted steel with what appeared to be salad tongs for fingers and a penchant for hammering anything that moved. Its first day on the factory line resulted in the accidental riveting of a clerk's boots to the floor, the upside-down welding of an entire chassis to a ceiling beam, and the complete vaporization of a salesman's clipboard.
Ah, yes, merely a calibration error.
Mrs. Brambly, upon observing the iron giant spill varnish into a carburetor while dancing a slow pirouette, had this to say:
I don't trust anything that can't hold a paintbrush properly. It installed the fuchsia upside down.
Despite its flaws and the now standard issuance of shin guards to all workers, Brambly remained resolute.
Do you think the Romans waited for approval before aqueducting their way across the empire? Nay, progress is forged from smoke, fire, and a bit of collateral damage.
Soon, the automated line was producing no more don't turns than before, but now included bonus parts no one ordered: an extra pedal, a seventh bolt, and a commemorative whistle that chirped every time a trike was completed. Unintentionally, but still, curious buyers came, not for the improved build quality of which there was none, but for the spectacle. The showroom became a theater. Clients watched wide-eyed as a mechanical giant flung wheels across the room, and a second smaller automaton politely handed out warranty pamphlets in Latin. And somewhere, deep in the iron bowels of Brambly's mind, the dream persisted. A fully automated factory, a world without lost screwdrivers, misaligned sprockets, or his most loathed faux lunch breaks. We are told Brambly now works on a new model, the Assembler No. 2, which he claims will not only weld, but also judge weak metal with a disapproving clank. History may remember 1898 as the year of invention, ambition, and absolutely preventable combustion. But here at Trikes-RUS, it was simply known as Tuesday. It began with Mr. Brambly staring listlessly at a don't-turn unit in the showroom while a customer asked, for the fourth time that day,
"Why 3 wheels again? Doesn't it, tip?"
Brambly, weary of repeating the same answer,
"'Cause the fourth wheel is a coward's crutch,"
retreated to the break room, which he had converted into a thinking laboratory, then a dynamo testing chamber, then a pancake griddle, and back to a laboratory. There, surrounded by toast crumbs and schematics, he hatched a new scheme.
If I can automate the building, why not the selling? Imagine it, an always cheerful, never tiring, button-activated salesman. And powered entirely by air pressure. What could possibly go wrong?
Thus was born the Brambly Pneumo Spokesman 3000, a series of brass tubes, bellows, and ventriloquist-grade phonograph cylinders mounted atop a repurposed boiler and dressed in a bowler hat for charisma. Its purpose? To deliver a rousing pre-recorded sales pitch whenever a customer approached a don't turn. What it actually did? Well, at precisely 9:17 a.m. on launch day, the first customer of the morning stepped foot into the showroom. The Pneumo Spokesman sprang to life with a wheeze of steam and the crackle of wax.
"Good day, discerning citizen. Might I direct your impeccable gaze to this majestic 3-wheeled marvel?"
The rest of the sentence was unfortunately lost in the violent decompression of its pressurized lungs, which exploded with such force that the poor fellow's hat was launched into Lake Erie, and a portrait of Mrs. Brambly was found impaled on a weather vane 2 buildings away. When the smoke cleared, Brambly was already wheeling out version 2, which featured reinforced tubing, 3 backup phonographs, and an optional mustache attachment. Mrs. Brambly, having just recovered from the paint that wouldn't dry incident, arrived in a flurry of perfume and fury.
If your metal windbag causes another detonation within 50 feet of my paint swatches, I shall personally reassign your laboratory to the latrine shed.
Brambly, unfazed, muttered something about excessive emotional varnishing and promised version 3 would only detonate if provoked by sarcasm. Still, to this day, rumors persist of a lone pneumo unit that escaped the facility. Locals whisper of a brass-plated gentleman haunting Cleveland's outskirts, still delivering his pitch to startled milkmaids and lampposts.
Superior cornering power. Never flip again. Buy now or be left behind.
By now, dear listener, the tale is scarcely believable to the uninitiated. But those of us with soot in our collars and grease in our blood know the truth. The Don't Turn lives, and it rolls with purpose. It is the twilight of the 19th century, and while the world stumbles into the uncertain murk of modernity, one Cleveland factory strides ahead atop exactly 3 wheels. No more, no less. And how? Not through expanded labor forces or imported genius, but through the sheer unbridled ambition of one man, Mr. Brambly. Having grown weary of crooked bolts, upside-down wheels, and mechanics who couldn't tell a crankshaft from a soup ladle, Mr. Brambly built what could only be described as industrial heresy. A factory run near entirely by automatic contraptions, piston punchers, gear tighteners, firebox feeders, and one alarming claw-like thing that appeared to exist only to SWAT hats from unsuspecting foremen. With these steel-boned minions in place, the human workforce was whittled to 6, 3 of them technically still alive. Now, each Don't Turn bursts from the assembly line in a polished tremble of riveted optimism. Chrome tiller straight, spokes snug, and wheels, usually right side up. A repair shop still exists, of course, but it has found itself curiously underworked. Mr. Brambly claims this is due to perfect engineering. The staff believe it is due to customers giving up. The young engineer, with dreams of symmetrical transport, still submits his peculiar prototypes, each one with 4 wheels, each one quietly banished to the outer lot, where they act as bait for less discerning buyers. Brambly never speaks of them. He merely grunts, drinks his coffee, black, no sugar, brewed until sentient, and mutters something about the tyranny of stability. Mrs. Brambly, meanwhile, has declared herself chief of all aesthetic affairs, issuing accessory directives with the iron conviction of an empress. Her painted trims, velvet seat covers, and crystal-lined headlamps now adorn nearly every Don't Turn, and despite Mr. Brambly's grumblings, they do seem to sell better with lace-lined fenders. Together, this unlikely triumvirate, the visionary, the embellisher, and the idealist, have driven Trikes-RUS to a peculiar place. A fully automated, barely managed, preposterously confident tricycle empire powered by 6 employees and 1,000 questionable decisions. And yet, somehow, it works. As the century turns, the Don't Turn does not. It simply keeps going. Forward, sideways, occasionally, downhill faster than intended, but going all the same. So mark it well, dear listener. When the world was inching toward the automobile, Mr. Brambly stood his ground, hunched over his brass schematics, and declared to history,
3 wheels, or nothing.
And nothing, it turns out, would never be enough.